The work of the church is the people, not the ministry. Hey folks, Adam here on The Bearded Prophet, and one of my passions is to help us re-examine what is church, or what we call church in the West, because it usually has very little resemblance to what the church was historically, and the church that Jesus birthed through the apostles in the book of Acts, and even the New Testament letters from Paul. What we call church, going in a big building, having a corporate worship service, hearing a teaching for 45 minutes, singing a few songs and leaving, is not the New Testament concept of church, fundamentally. And so I want to talk about that because it's very important. So the first thing I want to say is the people is the work of the church. Caring for people and loving the people in the church, teaching them to love each other and love God, and then share Him with others. And yeah, you can try that through teaching, getting up and expository preaching, but people tend to remember about 10% of what they hear, and I think about maybe 20% of what they read, but they remember a lot more what they see. So just getting up and preaching doesn't have that big effect. But let's talk about this. How can you effectively pastor people that you barely know? There's 200, 300, 400 people in a building, and there's what, 3 paid staff, 4 paid staff? And, that pastor can't know these people intimately. How can you pastor people you've never been in their home? You don't even know if they have enough food or they have other glaring needs. You don't see their children or their spouse, if they're respectful, if they're kind. You don't actually know the real problems your people are dealing with. But yet you can get up every week and preach these messages, and the messages are great. I went to a church for years. I mean, the messages were spot on most of the time. A lot of them were very, very good. But as I've talked about, if people just hear a message, go, oh yeah, that was good, that was nice, all right, let's get out of here and go to the game, go have lunch, whatever. You don't act on it, it goes flitters right out of your mind. Ask yourself this right now. What did my pastor preach about? Do I even remember it? And then more importantly, did I act on it? Can I even recall the main point of this last week's sermon? And if you can, did I do anything differently with that information? The answer is mostly no. So how can we claim to be pastoring people if we don't really know them deeply, connect with them, see them as people? One of the problems in the West is we've outsourced ministry to paid and professional and people with a title, and we have made it sanitized. Ministry happens in a building that no one really owns. It's not in a home. It's somewhere you go for a few hours and you leave, and then it closes. That's not really God's design. God designed us to be in homes, to be in fellowship, be in families, clans, these kinds of things. So we have to really ask ourselves, how effective am I as a pastor? And I think that's one of the biggest frustrations a lot of pastors face. They're like, well, I preach week after week. I tell people you should do this, you should do it, and then they're not doing it. There's a high burnout rate in pastoring. There's a high frustration rate in pastoring. Really, I think a lot of this could be changed if we focused on quality, not quantity. If we made it about quality of relationships. If you could pastor 1, 2, 3 people or 1, 2, 3 families and pastor them well, and then train them to pastor others, you could have a tremendous ministry. I think that's one of the main points. God, we're thinking like Westerners. I'm going to build this up. I'm going to make it bigger. Bigger is better. I talk about that in one of my videos. And actually, God is saying, no, you cannot take over the church. You can't own the church. I do. God says I do. But you can multiply. Jesus he made disciples who made disciples. Go out 2 by 2, share, plant churches in these communities and teach them to reach their people, them to multiply. And this is happening. I talk about it in the third world countries, the Middle East, Asia, persecuted nations. But we have a draw people to myself and build my movement, my church, my mission, agency or whatever it is. No, like I said, if you, and this man, woman, you don't have to be a formal pastor. If you begin to impact 1, 2, 3 other people or other families and effectively pastor them, disciple them, and train them to make disciples to go and do the same, then boom, if let's say you reach 3 people or 3 families well, and they go out and reach 3 others, and then, my brain's already getting fuzzy with the math, but you could begin to see how this goes out like a multiplying thing, like a factor tree. Like, your 3 reach their 3, which reach 3 more, and then it's 9, it's 27. I mean, the exponential reach of this is tremendous. And yet you have only impacted those first 3 people or families. That's how the kingdom is actually designed to spread. But instead, we impact 3 families and we say, bring them more in, and we actually dilute the impact. Because now the same pastor or minister that impacted, 3 families, now they have 30 families, but they can only impact, your capacity as a human. You can't know that many people intimately. You can't pastor. You can't go in all their homes and really know them and their family and their children and really see their issues. You can't. 30, 40, 50 people, no, it's impossible. Impossible to do well over a sustained period. So why don't we focus more on the small and let it bear fruit into the big?